Want to hear what one listener called the most disrespectful show he's heard in 20 years?
Join Donna, Liz, and Amina at 10 a.m. on Thursdays for Surly Voices.
A fresh, fun, feminist take on current events, politics, and social justice.
Slaying the patriarchy, one show at a time.
Surly Voices, Thursday at 10 a.m. on WMNF 88.5 and WMNF.org.
You are tuned to WMNF Radio, 88.5 FM in Tampa. And we are just here in the middle of our public affairs program, Community Speaks. I'm your host, Patro Mabili. Of course, I want to thank you for joining me here today. The world's largest humanitarian crisis and feeding children in Florida this summer is a topics we're going to talk about here today. Not surprising, Red Florida has opted out of a federal program to do just that. And as I said, this is Community Speaks. I want to thank you for joining me, and I'll look forward to your telephone calls to talk about these issues in the world. I want to thank Irene for sticking around and taking your telephone calls. Also, you can send your emails, dj@wmnf.org. And I know you care about children in this state, but the state government is playing politics as usual, not willing to work with a Democratic federal government to feed children. Today, I would like to hear from those in Florida who will be trying to feed kids this summer now that the state is refusing help from the feds to do it. Advocacy groups have been wondering why, Florida leaders opted out. But of course, Florida leaders always say that Florida has enough programs to fund it, don't want any strings attached from any federal help that it's going to get. So as usual, the Republican leaders of this state continue to play politics, just like it happened when we were going to get federal funds for transit to upgrade our transit system here in this state, along with the same upgrades that were going to take place in other states right along the interstate system. So Florida, always an outlier because it's so busy playing party politics. But advocacy groups do want to know how we're going to feed kids this summer, and wondering who's going to be helping. I would like to hear from those groups because ever since the beginning of this year, this program has been out there, offered and available. It's one of the newest benefit food programs under the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which will officially launch this summer of 2024. And the deadline for the states to have signed up was January the 1st. And Florida has opted out of this new federal program that's designed to help low-income parents pay for groceries over the summer. This Summer Electronic Benefit Transfer Program for Children, a summer EBT, is a new form of federal food assistance that will offer preloaded cards to help low-income parents afford groceries during June, July, and August. And beginning in the summer, eligible families in states and territories that participate in the program will receive $40 per month for every child in the household. And that's according to the USDA website. And the federal deadline for states and territories, as I said, to opt into the program was January 1st. When Florida failed to apply for the program, it turned down $250 million in traditional nutritional aid. And that's according to the Florida Policy Institute. One person who speaks for Florida, the state of Florida, said the Florida Department of Children and Families, which administers SNAP benefits in the state, responded to the state's decision to decline the additional food assistance program by saying, we anticipate that Florida's full approach to serving children will continue to be successful just with Florida's money, without any additional federal programs that inherently always come with some federal strings attached. She didn't specify which strings she was talking about in this case, but, any state that hasn't decided to go along with this aid was going to be, on the hook for just a portion of it. The Summer EBT program grew out of a temporary pandemic-era program called Summer PEBT. And this program, 39 states and territories opted into the program on January 1st, this new reiteration of it, and found Summer EBT benefits reduce food insecurity and improve nutrition among children in the areas that were studied. So unlike PEBT, states participating in the new program will incur some administrative expenses. States must cover at least half of the cost to administer the funds provided by the federal government according to USDA guidelines. So it doesn't seem it would be that heavy of a lift for the state to put this out, especially considering the fact that so many children are going hungry and grocery costs are still on the increase in Florida. And, it just made no sense. It makes no sense that this state continues to play politics so much and claim it cares about freedom and doing the right thing, being number one in so many areas like education. And even that, Florida gets some accolades for education, but of course, nobody knows the full impact of some of these newer policies that have taken place in the system, in the education system in the state, how it's going to pan out. We already know that some of these unconstitutional policies have not passed constitutional muster. But going forward, we're going to see if the kids of this state really are benefiting from these policies that we are seeing, and especially the policy of not participating in a lot of the feeding programs. Kids need to eat during the summertime, especially when, low-income kids have a hard time eating during the school year. And, of course, if you don't eat during the school year, you're not going to do well academically. It's hard to use your brain and think and learn if your belly is doing all the talking. But I want to hear from you. We also see that there are humanitarian crises going on around the world as well. I wanted to itemize some of what is happening. We are hearing, such as in Haiti, which falls this year as number 8 on the scale of the countries that are experiencing humanitarian crises right now. We hear some of the belligerents in Haiti right now, like Barbecue, talking about he's preparing for violence. His forces are prepared to engage in any violence as the international community is gathering there to help stave off some of the humanitarian crises that are happening there in terms of the food, in terms of health. Of course, we don't want cholera to break out, as we've seen in Haiti happen after the earthquake. But this notorious gang leader, Barbecue, says his forces are ready for a long fight. I doubt it. But he's still treating his own people, like you just heard in the news update. Some young kid is shining his slippers and he's pulling up in this fine car while all of this crisis is happening around him. So again, people are playing politics with people's lives, with children's lives, especially as people go hungry, as people are falling dead under these guns and during all of this violence. Haiti falls as number 8 as these armed actors are increasingly deploying violence to control communities while families are facing displacement and even extortion. So these armed actors are cutting communities off from health and educational services, damaging livelihoods and threatening lives. It is an estimated 4.7 million people are facing hunger, with almost 20,000 in famine conditions in Haiti. The country is also in the midst of this severe cholera outbreak right now, with children, accounting for roughly 65% of confirmed cases. This is Community Speaks. I'm right at the moment going over humanitarian crisis around the world. And these were the top 10. And as I said, Haiti has fallen to number 8 on that scale. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. 813-239-9663 is the number to call if you wanted to join in the conversation. We're talking about children in crisis in this world, and especially in this state, and who are going to be responsible for helping kids eat this summer during the summer months if the state of government of Florida is not going to pitch in to help get more money that is being put out there for us to use to feed children during the summer. There's a lot of other gimmicks the state likes to engage in. You could, have the tax-free sale on stuff when prices are already so high, and especially in a state that depends on the sales tax. It's a very regressive sales tax that keeps prices high for the poorest. It's just a gimmick to have these sale tax holidays on just some items to get people to thinking great things about the state government, when the state government engages in so many things that hurts the state's children, that hurts the state's poor. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. Talking about the 10 humanitarian crises that demand our attention right now on this globe. And of course, the 11th crisis, the crisis here in the state of Florida. There's a lot going on in the world, and we want to always be on top of what is happening. And, you're tuned right now to your community radio station, WMNF. And I like to hear, as I said, from those who are in Florida who will be trying to feed kids this summer now that the state is refusing help from the feds to do it. Also, yesterday, Attorney Andrew Warren visited WMNF radio, talking to us yesterday morning on the Sunday Forum. And I thought that was a little bit of news made in that he talked about the rape kits. As I asked him about the rape kits, we know that there's been a crisis in processing rape kits in this country. And so there's like a 10, 15, maybe even 20-year delay in getting justice in this country and even in this state. And before the governor suspended Andrew Warren, he says on that very last day, when he got that news that he was suspended, that there had been an exoneration in a rape because, he fast forwarded the testing of rape kits. And once this particular case was determined who the real rapists were, the person who had been in jail was exonerated. And so I thought that was a perfect example of a man who was doing his job, doing a good job, and because of politics was suspended, lost his job because, the governor wanted to play politics in this state, just wanted to target a Democrat, a progressive Democrat, and that was the one that got targeted, Andrew Warren. Even when on his last day he showed, that this was a man doing his job and doing a good job. And of course, there's another Democrat that got targeted in the state by this governor, Monique Worrell in Central Florida over in the Orlando area. Same thing. And now Andrew Warren, of course, has said that he will run for re-election because the appeals court has upheld the ruling from the district court that said the governor was wrong in firing him, suspending him from his job. 813-239-9663. I'm looking forward to hearing from you, talking to you about what is happening here on Community Speaks. My name is Patron Mobili, and just looking forward to getting to the telephone lines. So let me go straight away to the phone lines to include you in on this conversation as we're talking about humanitarian crisis around the world and here in the state of Florida. Go ahead. Ron, can you hear me? You're on the air.
Yeah, I can hear you, but can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, man. I wanted to call in yesterday about Mr. Warren, but I kind of let it go. It was Mother's Day, and it's a kind of somber experience for me. Mine's gone, and kind of keeping that light. She's just around the corner somewhere, so it just was bad feelings for me yesterday. But, yeah, you hit it right on the head. You got that overreaching and abuse of power going on in the state of Florida. so bad that it seems sophisticated, but it's not really sophisticated.
Right.
I mean, I just seen where they passed something for insurance to help the elderly and stuff and help this combat this insurance crisis. It did absolutely nothing, because what we're complaining about here, and I've heard other people say the same thing, is that, you know, your cost went from 1% to like 150% up, and there's no relief for that.
Right.
So that's costing us as taxpayers and people living in this state a lot of money. And all that money is going out the door to corporations and companies that are allowed to come in here and just take advantage of us, because it's all politics. That's
Right.
what politics. That's what the politics is all about. It is, you know, like we were saying from the beginning of this thing. You know, they're going out there putting all these smoke screens up, helping the people, immigrants, and all this stuff, while the people in the state get ran over and the money get took out and delve right back into the Republican Party. See, that's where all this money coming from. I used to wonder, wow, they get a lot, but the people who they say contributed, not contributing like that. They taking the money from poor people and skirting it, or what would you call it? It's a covert activity, so I don't even know what kind of name they would call that. And they just want to say that because you know it's obviously people are disinterested in helping the people of the state to the degree that they need to be helped. I mean, you start messing with stuff like books in school. I remember when they brought the lottery out and all these people hit the lottery and stuff, but the schools failed and the lottery is supposed to have been put there to help support the schools. So now you got the schools failing with no backing or money, but you put up a big lottery corporation to take in all this money every week.
Yeah, and yet the teachers still remain one of the worst paid groups in the country.
Right, with some added support. How did that happen? You know, that was supposed to be like, we were supposed to bump this up a little bit, make everything work out just peachy. And every time, I guess we as suckers, it happens, and that's what they do. They tell us one thing, and then they flip the script on us, like I'm saying about the insurance stuff. There's no help with that homeowners mortgage insurance and car insurance in the state of Florida. They go on berserk, and they're raking in. I see a lot of people riding around with their vehicles torn up and not fixed and being totally lost, and they're allowing them to drive them when they used to tell you they couldn't drive them, because the insurance is defunct. They don't want to pay for the people to fix them, and they don't want to pay you. You're paying them to drive it, to fix somebody else's car, but the people who have their cars, it's not working. Like I'm saying, they're not doing it. At first I noticed it, then I became a victim, so I see what they're doing. And it's exploitation as usual.
Yeah, and especially on those home insurance, because you are competing with corporations who are out there competing with single families, buying up these homes and renting them out for exorbitant amounts, and it's a mess.
And then somebody got messed up in the storm and all that, and not even the homeowners.
Right.
Their businesses. It's the same as the beachfront. There are beachfront homes that people don't reside in. They use them for secondary homes and stuff. They go over there and consume all the monies that's ever used for relief, because they claim they have the biggest of a loss, which that should have been foreseen if they was good consumers. But off of that for a minute, I'll leave you with this here about something I saw or read. I don't know how true it is, but they say Haiti has mounds of iridium there. And that's what this whole thing is about. I saw that on the internet. I don't know how true. You know how it is. I'm just saying. So was that really what's going on?
Yeah, so you think maybe that could be the source of the new economy, and people are fighting for those resources. Mm-hmm.
Right. They're trying to, take it down to bare bones like a gentrification always goes. They come in, gentrify the place, then there comes the hero come in to save the place. Oh, look what we found also on top of that. On top of all of that, look what we mysteriously found.
We're keeping a close watch on Haiti for certain.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's more to it than meets the eye, huh?
Always. That's why we gotta keep our eye on it.
And be vigilant. I'll leave something else I saw this weekend. You might like it. Cat Williams was talking about being woke. He said the opposite of woke is being sleep. And he said, I ain't walking around here sleepy. He said, is you crazy? So he attacked. He said, our governor he jumped off on the governor.
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple. If you not woke, clearly you sleep. You're unconscious.
Right. And that's why all this stuff is happening now. Too many people are asleep. and let these people who call themselves try to be woke run all over us.
Right, and run game on you. Think you're giving you something, giving you nothing, taking it away, actually.
Yeah, it's a bureaucracy. It's been hidden and done like this so long. We got to go in there deep and uncover it. Just like they did to Mr. Warren. They've been doing that for eons. They always take out people and put their people in. That goes out. That's what I'm saying. Even in Haiti, they put their people in. They go in and take their people out and put in their people again. They do that. They do it. I mean, you fill in the blank. I don't know who these people is with this craziness. They do it to communities in the United States. They do it to foreign states. They do it to other places. I was just telling somebody earlier, they had to get rid of all them weapons stockpile we had. When you got Kosovo, they said they got to give them weapons been sitting there rusting, man. We're going to just have them for sale and they rusting. Nobody ain't going to buy them. Nobody ain't bought them. So they have to go around the world wreaking havoc just to get money. When we could be doing other stuff, like a lady told me the other day, you could be selling here, Florida could be free of all these problems. They just sold the weed out there. So, oh, what, really? I hadn't even thought about it like that. Okay. So you told me the ideas, but few answers.
Right. Well, that's why we got to keep talking about it. Thank you, Ron. Let me see if we can get some other people to chime in.
All right. Appreciate it, Nabila. Keep up the good work.
Thank you for calling, Ron. 813-239-9663. We're going to go to Dunedin and see what question Mary has. Go ahead, Mary. You're on Community Speaks.
Baby, I love your show.
Thank you.
I just want to say Ron DeSantos is at it again continuously, starving the children, ruining the schools. I'm so glad you have this forum to educate people. I can't believe he was voted in again.
Me neither.
The man's got to go. He's got to go. But thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you for calling. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. And, you know, you can write me, WMNF. You can write WMNF, DJ at WMNF.org. And Matt Tenney has done exactly that. And he just asked, what do I say about child obesity rate, the child obesity rate? And, you know, that's also a problem with all of the processed foods, especially in poor communities where the only stores you can buy food is from the Dollar General store or someplace that's not going to carry produce, not going to carry the healthy foods choices that you'll find in Soho, like South Howard and places that cater to upper income classes in this country. But so kids are forced to eat because, of course, no food is not good at all. You know, so some food, even processed food, is better than no food. But you know, it's probably going to take this summer, community gardens. It's going to take people who are producing produce, maybe helping people who have yard space to let's get together as a community and grow food for the kids. And, you know, it'd be a little more healthy choices. You could grow fruit. If I had, you know, an apple a day, at least 3 times a day along with food, then, you know, that would be helpful to have access to fruit and vegetables on a daily basis for kids during the summertime. 813-239-9663. And I think, you know, having better food choices, especially among the poor and working classes, you know, is going to do a lot to help child obesity rates in the United States, clearly. But, you know, children have to eat, you know. So, like I said, some food is better than none at all. And it's going to be a challenge trying to feed children. You know, the state has a lot of challenges on its hands that it doesn't have a whole lot of solutions for. And so why it would turn down federal aid to feed children during the summer months is beyond me, except it makes a whole lot of sense when you look at the politics between red and blue in this country. It's like the gang wars in this country. You know, these people, you know, they forget about their logic and just, you know, they ride with their colors. And on the red side, it's like they're trying to elicit blood out of everybody especially those who don't agree with them, but even those who do. There are a lot of poor people who continue to vote Republican, who continue to look at what is happening and respond to how it makes them feel, how the standard bearer for that party is sounding all tough, even though he's just a weakling. And yet these poor people are looking at emotions, and they're looking at this behavior, this John Wayne behavior, and that's what they're voting for, and voting completely against their interest. So, it is a class war in this state and in this country, and these parties continue to play it out, because as the Democrats work to try to solve problems and try to provide, the Republicans are busy trying to take it away or manufacture problems, such as what they did in this state by firing the state attorney who was duly elected, because the governor didn't like some words he spoke, decided that he's going to overturn the election by suspending him and putting somebody else that was never elected in his place. And now they're going to try to run that person against, the person who was duly elected. And so, again, they're both going to be running for the same job, even though it was a undemocratic process that created this challenge. And so now the elected person becomes the challenger as opposed to being the incumbent. It's a total undermining and overthrow of democracy in this state. And we're seeing that's a national policy on the Republican part to make that the national agenda. Let's challenge the feds at every level, no matter what the issue is in our state. Let's challenge the federal government as opposed to making certain there are checks and balances, making certain that there are problems getting solved, not problems manufactured, so that you can look like you're solving a problem and you're not really solving any at all. We're looking at humanitarian crisis around the world, and we're looking at how to feed children in this state, the state of Florida, because it's going to be difficult to do so over the next 3 months, as the state has refused money from the feds to help feed children in this state. But we're looking at this crisis around the world in 2024, threats of conflict, extreme climate events, deadly disease outbreaks, global economic shocks, mass displacements, all that threatens the safety and well-being and the futures of children. Children's lives and safety, well-being, and their futures are under attack in an increasingly dangerous and unequal world. And this is from Save the Children, looking at other humanitarian organizations like the UN Refugee Agency, who have been taking a look at all of the humanitarian crises around the world. It also lists places like Haiti, of course. It mentions the entire Sahel region, the sub-Saharan African region. The Sahel is facing one of the fastest growing displacement crises in the world. More than 2.7 million people have been internally displaced in that region. 29 million people are in dire need of humanitarian assistance right now. But we look also at South Sudan, spiraling violence, conflict, and a severe food shortage have endangered millions of lives in South Sudan. There are nearly 2.4 million South Sudanese refugees, making it the largest refugee crisis on the continent of Africa, and that's because of politics has gone wild. The ex-dictator thrown out the special forces, this special military force that he had surrounded himself with, that he created while he was dictator, stuck around and have now become a challenge to the country's military. And so the military has been fighting this special military force ever since, last year. And as a result, this conflict has just spiraled further and further out of control. It has created this conflict. This is what has happened in Sudan since The recent conflict began in April of last year. More than 8.6 million people have been displaced, and including more than 6.5 million people within Sudan and many more who have fled to neighboring countries, including, of course, South Sudan, which is, as I just mentioned earlier, is also seeing a lot of conflict and violence as a result. This displacement, and it is causing food shortages. So Sudan and South Sudan and the whole Sahel region of Africa is in crisis right now. But we're also, as the UN Human Rights, UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, we're going to continue to look at these crises of humanity around the world. But we're going to get back to the telephone lines here on Community Speaks. This is WMNF's Radio, and I'm your host, Patro Mabili. Go back to the telephone lines to Clearwater this time and talk to Carl to see what Carl has to add to this conversation. Go ahead, Carl. Carl, you're on the air.
Yes. Hi. Enjoying the show.
Thank you.
My comment is, Florida is the Senate the Florida Senate are all millionaires, and
so they're not going to go hungry. Their kids.
It's Florida has been run by wealthy white people for the benefit of wealthy white people, and anything the working class or the general public needs, they throw them crumbs. Public schools, anything that benefits the working class in Florida. And then I'll just say this real quick. There's a lot of welfare for the wealthy in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes life tougher on working people. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the show.
Thank you, Carl. I appreciate your call. Thank you for calling into Community Speaks. You too can call into Community Speaks, 813-239-9663, 813-239-9663. We're in the last half hour of Community Speaks. Next hour, of course, we'll get back to the music with It's the Music Monday with Blaine Whalen coming your way. But right now, we're trying to figure out who's going to help feed children in Florida. We know that there's a class war going on here. There have been people who have been given a bonus to move here from the north and the northeast who have been voting Republican and have been invited down here, especially if you were a police officer, especially if you're a police officer who has had a bad record. You've been invited to move to Florida over the last couple of years so that you can help maintain this governor and his power, and those who are supporting this power. He was hoping that he would be on his way to being the nominee for the Republican Party at the presidential level, but that failed. He's still here in Florida, and a lot of people have been invited here to bump up the voting rolls on the Republican side, and to a large extent that has worked. Before those invitations went out, there was almost some equality on the voter rolls between Republican and Democrat, but the Republicans have pulled out an edge on the voting rolls in this state since those invitations have gone out and those bonuses paid. And this new police force was part of that deal. You can come and join the governor's new Gestapo force, and this is going to help suppress votes in this state while you're here helping to boost up Republican voters in this state. So it was all part of the plan. And of course, the redistricting that took down poor communities, that broke up a black district, so that people in that district will not have the nominee of their choice. Can't even be considered, because now they have to share a district with those rich Republicans that lived up the road, and now those rich Republicans have control of that previously mostly black district, most black and Democratic district. This is all part of the political process in the plan in the state to really create a political warfare in this country and create a edge for Republicans to keep Republican power in control in the state of Florida. Now we're seeing the policies, the outgrowth of those policies, and how long some of these people will stay when they see the housing prices are going completely spiraling out of control, and probably will be out of whack with the rest of the country if housing prices and housing start to stabilize nationally. Will that happen in Florida? The insurance companies are not writing new policies, but the focus today is feeding the children of Florida. Where is the plan for that? How will especially poor kids eat this summer in Florida? And frankly, how will they eat when they go back to school if there's no dollars out there? The dollars that are going to be spent in Florida over the next 3 months, because it didn't take the federal funds, if that's going to be vanquished by the time we get back to school. And poor kids are going to have to figure out a way to eat while they're in school. So there's always a consequence for your policies. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. Eager to hear from more Floridians, but you can hear this conversation in this radio station all over the world. Call people and let them know how we're coping with humanitarian crisis around the world. There's a crisis feeding our own kids in this state. There's a crisis of politics in this state, but there's humanitarian crisis around the world. 813-239-9663. According to UNHCR, it says 1% of humanity is displaced by violence, conflict, or persecution. Who's going to be displaced in Florida? Who's continuing to be displaced in Florida? But we're looking at UNHCR numbers around the world. 90% of refugees and forcibly displaced people hosted by low and middle income countries. That's a big challenge for a lot of countries. On the top of the list, of course, Ukraine. Crisis in Ukraine has displaced an estimated 3.7 million people. They did nothing to invite Russia's invasion of that country. It was a total violation of international law. But again, there are those who represent a fascist right-wing spectrum on this globe and in this country, and we're seeing the same type policies where they cared less about people and more about their power, and sending out as a violent message that, don't tread on this country. But there are a lot of people who are under attack right now, and it is leading to humanitarian crisis everywhere. We've seen this violent spiral. We've just watched the last 10 years in Afghanistan, 20 years in Afghanistan, and even to this day, more than 4 decades of displacement. Afghan refugees are one of the largest protracted refugee situations in the world. So, you make war and you make problems that you can never solve and make it more difficult for people to solve. We're going to go back to the telephone lines. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. Or you could write me, DJ at WNF.org. We're going to talk to John in Plant City. You say what here on Community Speaks?
Hey, enjoying the program as usual. And I really enjoyed the program yesterday morning with Andrew Warren.
Yes, sir.
Really a great guy. Such an intelligent, it couldn't have been a better person to be in office. And then you see what happened. DeSantis tried to destroy him. Kicked him out. And at least he stood up and I guess he's got his job back, right?
No.
No?
Yeah, he's hoping to get it back. That's why he's running. He had to run for it.
Well, I'd recommend anybody to go to their archives and listen to that program yesterday. It was really good. But one thing I the point that I was going to go talk about a little bit is when the Bushes were in office, he destroyed a lot of environmental laws. He, remember old Dick Cheney and,
Oh, yeah.
and all the craziness that was going on then. Well, there was a book written. It was called Crimes Against Nature. And it was a really good book, and it really exposed all the stuff that was happening. It's just kind of like today, the New York Times with the Palestinians, and Hamas, and they had this crazy article about all this craziness that they were doing to the hostages, and it was all exposed. I mean, on Democracy Now! At least it was exposed that this was craziness. And the same thing happened during the Iraq War. Like that babies were thrown out of incubators, and it was all created by our government, I guess. They're the one that have things at stake. But now, we have a third, and the Back to Crimes to Nature was written by Robert Kennedy back then. And I realized, I said, man, this is really a cool dude. And, like a couple of years ago, I started hearing all this thing, like the guy's crazy, he's a nut. And the reality, the guy is such a good candidate for president. And another point here is I'm kind of scratching my head. I remember, I've listened to WMNF for years, and I've almost listened since the beginning of the station. I really loved the station. And we talked about Ralph Nader, until we were blue in the face, like we really wanted this guy, this third-party candidate, to make, to be in the office. And, of course, he lost. But now it's just like it's a total blackout about this Kennedy guy. And he's really a great guy. And his pick for vice president, as far as I'm concerned, I can't see a better person, two better people to run this country. I don't know. What do you think, Mabili? Am I crazy too?
Well, about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Because listen, he may have a great name, and he may have had some truth when he talked about crimes against nature, but he's not getting a whole lot of play because he's saying a whole lot of dangerous stuff without proof. And that there's a lot of people, including myself, who fight against disinformation, and we have to check that kind of stuff. And this is a dangerous time for disinformation. So, that's going to be his problem. And he has shown a propensity of being just like some of the Trumpian people out there that would just say anything without proof. And that's not good. And furthermore, regardless of what you think about him and his candidacy and the third party candidacy, the problem with third parties is that, they refuse to start from the local level. That's how you achieve power status. Is you got to do it at home. You got to do it locally. That's how you come up and get some policies under you and get some other people to join you in that third party. And that's how you then go forward to Congress in the highest office in the land. So I think they've been doing it all wrong.
Well, myself personally, and it kind of hurts what you just said. You're pretty much saying that I'm pretty damn stupid for believing this guy. And I've been following him for a long time and reading a lot of things about him. And, of course, you're right. He's against Big Pharma. He wants to end the wars. He's against the FBI and the CIA. He's against all this stuff that we're against. And I just don't see any, really, I've looked and I've listened because, I don't want to be a fool. I really don't want to be a fool. So I've been trying to find something there to substantiate what people are saying, just like you. Like people say, oh, he's anti-vax. The guy's vaccinated. He was against the COVID vaccination because it wasn't tested. There's so many things if you look at it, and I don't know. You can call me a fool, but I listen to WMNF. I listen to your program. I listen to, I try to listen to Democracy Now! Every day. And like Democracy Now!, there's just kind of like this blackout. It's just like, I'm afraid the guy's going to get killed because he would stand up, and he has stood up to Big Pharma, which who has ever done that? He's a trial lawyer that was first, he created the River Keepers, he created these environmental programs, and he sued like GE. He sued Monsanto. He sued all these people. So, of course, there's going to be all kinds of disinformation. And all I'm saying to you and everybody else, I think you really need to do your homework. Really. I've done mine. You need to do yours. I appreciate your program, and thank you very much for this time, Nabili.
All right. Thank you, John. And all I'm saying, I'm not trying to call anybody stupid, but I think that this guy being a lawyer can come off on any side of any issue and try to explain himself. So, but just listening to a lot of what he's doing and saying, everybody has, to check themselves and check what he's saying. So I'm not calling you stupid. I'm just saying that a lot of what he said was dangerous, and despite his behavior or his advocacies in the past, just have a discerning eye when you listen to what he's saying. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. 813-239-9663. Let's go to Seminole and talk to Dan here on Community Speaks. Let's try to get as many of your calls in before the end of the show. Go ahead, Dan in Seminole. You say what?
Hey, Nabili, I think you're right on your answer to JFK Jr. I think the thing we got to hope for is anything is that he pulls a lot of those never Trumpers to vote for him, so that he kind of sways the election towards Uncle Joe. But what I really was wanting to call about was saying that here's our tax dollar that we as federal taxpayers pay for food, for keeping children fed during the year and whatnot.
Yeah.
And we are denying it. That's negligence of government. And I think people got to really be upset about that and make some noise about that.
Yeah.
It's our money.
Right. And just because they feel like they're going to be on the hook for half the cost, you're feeding children, man. You're feeding children for 3 months.
Well, yeah, and we're the third most populous state, and probably I don't know what our children population is, but it's a large number of people that are then, by deceit and variance, they're denying them their health and well-being. We need to be really upset about that.
I agree, man. Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was Dan from Seminole. Go ahead. Art from Largo. Thank you for calling, Art. Good to hear from you. You say what?
Well, I say I would like your listeners to really read the article, and it's entitled "Leaked New York Times Gaza Memo Tells Journalists to Avoid Words Genocide, Ethnic Cleansing, and Occupied Territory." And you can read about this if you go to intercept.com. It's an incredible article and explains a lot. And also, I would like to mention that this Saturday, May 18th, CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, is hosting 5 voices from the front line in Gaza. They're all healthcare workers, and they're going to speak at the Spectrum Boulevard in Tampa, Florida. It's 3705, and that's the address for the Embassy Suites by Hilton Tampa.
Oh, okay.
These 5 workers are really, they say they are incredible. They're going around the country, actually.
Oh, right. And they're talking about the humanitarian crisis and how they're coping.
Exactly. And it's this Saturday, May 18th, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
All right.
Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you for letting me talk about it, because it's so important that the public really get a first-hand view on it.
Right.
And thank you so much.
Thank you, Art. And we'll be looking out for more information about that. We're going to go to Bradenton. Let's talk to Fez. You say what?
Hey. I feel that probably the most best way we could unite the gang colors, as you called them, the red and blue. I like them. Was, if we look at one thing that I see people from all walks of life that I know agreeing on is the disinformation through the media or the blocking in the media. And I, as a couple callers ago, was talking about how, Kennedy was, not getting the coverage he should, which I'm not really going to go into, but, as a point from one side, and then from the other side, I have family, that is, the other extreme, anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers, not paying their taxes now because the government's about to collapse, so why bother? And I'm serious.
I know you are. Go ahead.
and it ain't funny to me, and I'm like, I want to kick my family. Anyway, but no. And the only, and what proof do they have of this? The proof is that the media is not telling the truth. And, it's like, well, which media? How do you...
Well, that's it. I mean, people are in their silos. If the media is telling one truth, if it's not the truth that they want to hear, if it's not their truth, then they're not listening.
All right. Exactly. It's not my truth. Therefore, it's all wrong and lies. And that is, a great danger in our society, but it's not only in our society. It's all through the world. And I've lived all over the world, and that is, it happens all over. I was talking with my friends in Greece when the Ukraine war was breaking out, and, they were telling me how the news, or at least some of the news media there, was talking all about the Nazis there. It wasn't just a little thing, and so, trying to break support from Greece, who did send arms. And
well, there's a difference between media and social media, and I think the two are getting triangulated together, and people are getting some kind of skewed truth.
More powerful, but I'm not talking about social media. I'm talking about...
That's where a lot of people are getting it from.
Or something else. Yeah, I'm not... Yeah. And but also, here's a different point. In media, however you want to define it, but I mean television or radio or whatever, tell me where right now it's being covered that in Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, the beginning of the Amazon River and rainforest, the humanitarian crisis of one of the largest droughts they ever had is going on, because now all they ever did to be green was build hydropower dams. Because you've got the Amazon River there. Why, just dam it and make power? Of course, the river's not going anywhere. Come on, right? But now they haven't had rain for so long, they don't have power.
Oh yeah,
they don't have power. And then the water pumps don't work because you don't have power. You don't have electricity, water, and food is 400 times more expensive. You don't have food. Guess what?
Okay. We have a humanitarian crisis. Thank you, Fez. We're running out of time. We're going to see what Stephen in St. Pete has to say. And Stephen, I think you're going to have the last word. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to compliment the caller earlier about RFK Jr., the only progressive running for president, true progressive. And God only knows what would have happened to the people of East Palestine and the Flint water crisis if RFK Jr. would have been president. He believes just like his father, just like his uncle. He's a true FDR, JFK, LBJ Democrat. Unfortunately, the Democratic Party is the party of Ronald Reagan.
Thank you for that conversation today. We're going to go ahead and make room for getting back to the music. But first, we're going to get news headlines from National Public Radio News. And so the bottom line is, if you're going to run for president, as a third-party candidate, you're probably going to lose. You're just going to make it harder for one or the other of the major candidates to lose or win, and that's probably not going to be in anybody's interest. If you're going to be third party, let's start from the bottom up and figure out some real issues for people like feeding children. But thank you for joining me here on Community Speaks. My name is Patrick Wabili. Thank you, Irene, and thank you all for calling. And we're going to get out and make room for getting back to the music after National Public Radio News. This is WMNF Tampa.